All right, welcome back to the channel, everybody. Today is Tuesday, the 24th of March. We're going to take a look at Bitcoin. We're going to see what it's done this month, what we anticipate it to do next or coming up in the next few days, because obviously it's going to be very difficult to predict what's looking out more than just a week with everything. This volatility is insane. Yesterday, we were almost positive, and when I say me, I literally mean the entire world was almost positive. The risk markets, S&P 500 was about to break down, the dollar was about to break out, and things were going to get absolutely crazy. And then we get a tweet first thing in the morning before the New York session. Donald Trump drops a bombshell talking about how we're going to stand down and not blow anything else up for a minute. And the markets absolutely enjoyed that. So here we are now with a completely different look, a completely different structure. Everything looks much different. So we're going to discuss all that and more. If you're new to the channel, welcome. If not, welcome back. So first things first, obviously Bitcoin right here is testing resistance. It's a 3-day swing high. You don't hear me bring up the 3-day levels very often, but they are relevant. They are very important. Obviously, it's a midweek candle, so this is your high. If you're breaking out above 71,384, you're probably heading to 72,830 up here. So basically, if Bitcoin's going to roll over, if the bears are correct, then it should roll over from here. There's no reason for it to trade above this level, but if it does trade above this level, that means there is demand up at these prices. So if it does trade above this level, taking a short trade would most likely be stopped out, as prices tend to drift towards last week's open, and then we'll see if there's any demand up there. Structurally speaking, in terms of the monthly range, it looks good here. It looks like it was going to head down and try to make fresh monthly lows, and then it just, the news basically completely destroyed that narrative. And in a bear market, though, let me say this before I get too far ahead of myself. In a bear market, these rallies tend to get sold. It might not be on the day or even the next day, but generally speaking, in a downtrending bear market, assets that do get these massive rip your face off rallies tend to be sold into. So we'll see what Bitcoin wants to do here. Obviously, I'm long. I hold Bitcoin spot price. I hold it long in cold storage. I am accumulating more on another cold storage device, so this way I have two instead of just one. And I am accumulating in this price range. I obviously know Bitcoin can go much lower if things get bad this year, and I will continue to accumulate as price heads lower, because I do believe in Bitcoin long term. I honestly do. So with that being said, in terms of a trade, though, we could be setting the weekly high. We could have set it yesterday. If we make a fresh 2-day high, then you'll have a fresh week high. But the monthly range looks good. It looks like a swing low failure pattern, as you were on the low. If we go out to the monthly here, you can see your low of the month is already in. You've got 7 days left on this monthly range. In terms of the size of the range, it does look pathetic. It looks tiny. It looks like a retest. It looks like it wants to fail. It looks like it wants to go lower, right? You can't even test February's open yet, or you haven't, at least up until this point. February's open was our upside target. That's where we've basically had a bullish target up to. We want to see what Bitcoin does when it gets up here. Does it make a fresh 2-month high, or does it reject February's high, similar to what it did in December, as you traded up in January above December's high, and then you rejected that price. You went on to make fresh monthly and fresh yearly lows. So we'll see if that happens here. I think if Bitcoin could get above that, then we can start talking about repair on Bitcoin. But anyways, until that happens, we have a trade set up. We have an idea. We have a setup. Everything looks good. So I am holding a short from the 3-day high from yesterday. We watched it in the it wasn't a public live stream. It was a private live stream. So we were watching as Bitcoin traded up into here. we allowed it to get back under, and then we put on the short. So we're essentially just short in this area. So if it rolls over, we'll hold that short and we'll see what happens with it. If it breaks out, I am not looking for shorts. Like I said, if it's trading above 71,788, you're going to 72,830 most likely. Nobody can see the future, but technical analysis does work to an extent to help us mitigate risk. If you guys don't mind, could you please let me know in the chat if you can hear my voice? OBS put in a new update, and I am unfamiliar with these new audio apertures. All right, beautiful. Thank you very much. All right, so yeah, that's basically what we're going to do. Yeah, the internet was good today. As you can see here, internet is cruising. Plenty good enough to hold a stream. And that reminds me, let me go ahead and make sure the stream settings are situated for that higher internet speed, so that way the output is much better. Okay, it already is. Good. Okay, good. We're good to go. All right, let's rock and roll. Yeah, so Fartcoin sold off yesterday. So even though Bitcoin and most all of risk had a nice pop because of Trump's news, you can see they faded it. They faded that news here on Fartcoin. So we generally do want to see what Fartcoin is doing, as we like to look at it as a sentiment indicator to some extent. Obviously, if the sentiment was this negative on Fartcoin yesterday after bullish rally, then that leads us to believe that maybe the sentiment in the crypto market is still bad. So with that being said, I do absolutely want to be holding a short from this point, especially if I think there is a high probability of it being this week's high, because next week, if it does roll over this week, next week I'll be short from a very sexy position. So we'll see what happens with it today. Your other markets that we're looking at for potential trade entries to this morning is going to be oil. Obviously, oil is testing an important level here. It's not a 3-day high. It is simply just a 4-hour swing high. So because it's such a smaller time frame, the level isn't going to be as helpful or as useful, sorry. The weekly VWAP is currently above price. You're testing it now. Obviously, I can see that we're trading above it right here, right now. But when the New York session market opens, then we'll see what it does. If it breaks back down under 4-hour resistance or this swing high and back under the VWAP, then I want to be a seller. Oil is very choppy right now. Oil is, it's a very difficult trade. It is super volatile, as any headline, literally any headline, can make this thing spike or it can make it drop. The headline made it drop yesterday, obviously. You know, there no more bombing happening, then oil will drop. If bombs do start blowing up again, then oil could spike. So very risky trade here. Very risky trade. So just be careful. I think as long as you're trading under 92.29, you can have a sell open. Make sure you got a stop loss. Apparently, of course, make sure you got that stop loss, and then boom, we'll see what happens with oil. If it wants to roll over, we'll take that. If it wants to break out, we'll eat a stop. So I do have a short side bias. It is testing the monthly VWAP, so this could be building in support here. All right, it could literally rally. Yesterday could have been a buy the dip opportunity on oil. I don't think it will sustain. These high prices for very long. I do believe the U.S. government and other governments around the world are going to try to do whatever they can to keep oil prices low. But obviously, volatility being what it is, there's no way of knowing. So we'll see what it does here. Nasty down day yesterday. So the weekly range would be down right now, and you're just pulling back off the lows to potentially test last week's low for resistance. We'll see if it holds here. So I'm looking for a short on oil at 92.29. Downside targets. Target number one would be, primary target would be 89.20. Secondary targets would be down in here. And then obviously tertiary targets or long-term targets would be down around these lows that you made back in early March. So we'll see what happens today. Those are the only two setups that I'm looking at right now. We did have a sell side bias on Nvidia. I still do have a sell side bias on Nvidia. As long as Nvidia is trading under 187.20, that is February's open, and as long as you're below that price, objectively you are bearish on, well, you're bearish last month. This month is a little bit different as you're testing the March open right now. So, I mean, is it going to close as a negative or a red candle, or in my case, blue here, a down candle? I don't know, right? I don't know. But it did look like it was trying to break down. And if that news never happened, then obviously I think Nvidia would have eventually broke down. But now, if they're talking and they can put a stop to this war and they can get the Strait of Hormuz open, then I see no reason why Nvidia could not rally from here. It is an objective support zone. You have ascending trendline support. You have last month's low down there. You have November's low. You have September's low. There's just a lot of potential support here. And Nvidia is pretty much the AI space, or 90% of it anyways. So Nvidia probably will benefit an AI boom, right? If you have a massive AI boom, then Nvidia would be the one of the stocks that everybody would be focusing on. So yeah, I mean, I do like it lower as long as it's under February's low, but I don't have a current setup here. I put out a video on Saturday discussing a range that was only visible on a crypto exchange because it's a 24-hour perpetual swap futures contract. You will not see that range here on these charts, but I did not get filled on that setup, so it doesn't matter anyways. I am not in it. So I am not holding any shorts on Nvidia right now. Tesla did break down Friday. It did have a really nice continuation move. Yesterday morning, it was gapping lower and trending lower. It wasn't until the news came out that caused Tesla to bounce. The bulls had it. All the bears in Friday's range were pretty much stuck once this thing gapped up like that. So it just led to a little bit more upside continuation for the range. But as you can see here, November's low is currently coming in and acting as near-term resistance. On the 4-hour, it still looks like a short. Like I said, in a bear market or in a downtrending market, you usually look to fade the rally, even if it is a big rally. Even if it has a lot of bullish momentum, you might not want to do that trade on the day that you have all the momentum, but generally a day later or the next day even, people are going to feel more confident or at least more comfortable in putting on short side setups. So I would be cautiously bearish on Tesla down here. But once again, no trade setup here yet. Now, on the pre-market, looks really good for downside continuation. So what we'll do on Tesla is if we get a spike on Tesla up to 384 and a rejection there, we'll put on a short. Okay, we'll put on a short here. So let's go ahead and mark that level off. Let's go ahead and hide November's low. We don't want to delete it. We just want to hide it, but it may be easier just to delete it because I don't know which one of these it is. There we go. There we go. So we'll just hide November's low and we'll focus on 383.90. Coming up here to a trading platform, let me pull up Tesla and put a limit order out at about that area. Ooh, it doesn't look as good on the trading platform. So you can see here, Tesla doesn't have that same structure. 383.90 is the level, so okay, so we'll look about, I'll just put it at 383.90. Screw it. I'm gonna set a limit sell at 383.90, and I think I can short 30 contracts, so I'm going to put it at 29.5. There we go. If we get a spike up on Tesla, obviously the structure here looks a little bit more bullish than bearish as you're above the 50 on the 4-hour, but the daily, weekly, every other time frame, all the other time frames were bearish. Sorry about that. My cat's breaking stuff in there. All your higher time frames are bearish on Tesla, so we'll see what happens. It is into support, though. Let's go back to the main monitor down here. You are into support. You've broken down last week. Like I said, you got a nice day close, weekly close under November's low, which is the major support zone on Tesla. You're under the day 200. Like, Tesla is full on ready to trend here. We have a downside target of September's open. And as long as you're under February's low, you know, it is what it is, right? So we'll see what happens today on that. So Bitcoin, we're looking lower because we hold long-term longs, right? So anytime we get an opportunity to protect those long-term gains with a short, we do tend to put that on. And then obviously short Tesla and short oil. Now here's the thing. The short oil play would be counter what we're looking for with Bitcoin and Tesla. So basically, it's a way to kind of mitigate some of that pure sell side risk. Because obviously if oil spikes, then Bitcoin and Tesla would most likely sell off. If oil rolls over, we could still potentially see Bitcoin and Tesla sell off. But if oil rolls over, they would have more of a chance to be bullish. Oil, I think right now, is the culprit, or the DXY is really the culprit, but oil is the main driver for the DXY. So yeah, oil and dollar are kind of putting pain in the rest of the market as your 10-year yields are spiking. So they're not up, they haven't broken out or anything yet, but just being up at these levels is dangerous. Now the Fed they were in a rate cutting environment. They have paused that scenario as we have started hearing not any Fed rumors yet about hiking interest rates. I haven't heard any Fed member say that yet. However, I'm not saying that they haven't said it either, but I have heard other people start to talk about Fed hiking. Now, you have to understand, they're not going to hike rates because of this near-term volatility. There would have to be a big spike on this in order to get the Fed even considering hiking interest rates. The Fed moves slow like a snail, and they do not care about intraday volatility or intra-month volatility even. So we'll see what happens, but long term, we're not anticipating any rate hikes, but they have stopped cutting rates, and that is also what is putting pressure on the 10-year, on the dollar, you know. So we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. We got 10 minutes to the bell. Bitcoin is already starting to experience a little bit of pain here, which means the oil trade might not work out. So basically, if it's trading above this price, we don't want to be short. So 92.29. If it is trading below it, we do want to be short. So we're going to get a close here in 9 minutes on this. If it closes above, we'll simply chill out on the short trade. If it doesn't, we won't. And then Tesla, we're going to need a pretty large spike. Going to need a pretty large spike to get into that position. But looking at the 220 EMAs here, it does appear that your retail day traders are going to be looking for shorts. So I want to wait for the spike. That would be a large spike. Let's be clear. You're trading at 737.76. So that would actually feel full on bullish if it were to get all the way up there. I'm not looking for the short if it doesn't get up there instantaneously. On the open, I want to see a spike up there, but that would be a big spike. Volatility is still elevated, so as long as volatility is elevated, you can see big ranges. All right. Hopefully everybody's having a fantastic week. We are. We've been absolutely crushing it this week. Shorted Fartcoin over the weekend, which gave us a little bit of a cushion coming into this week. We tried to short Siren USD on Saturday, so obviously that trade got stopped out. We took 2 stops on Saturday, losing a grand total of $100. And then we took 2 stops on Sunday, losing a grand total of $45. And then Monday morning, or was it Sunday evening? Let me see here. Yeah, it would have had to been Monday, right there. It was late. It was early Monday morning. Put on a short, a 4-hour res, and then it broke down. Took profits on this move lower right here, made about $500. So that covered the losses that we sustained over the weekend. And then I left 350 contracts short and woke up to a $650 winner as it broke down. This thing was up at 98 on the weekly RSI. 98, guys. 98. You do not buy a 98 RSI. You just don't. It can only go to 100. Now, with that being said, price can still go much higher. So even if you do have that 98 on the weekly RSI, and let's say price is trading at $1.50, price can still explode another 1,000% higher. All right, it can still go much higher. But it's just one of those things, like you are so far on the outskirts of probability that the chances of you winning that is just insanity. Like, it's so low. So we did know that we for sure wanted to be on the sell side. The problem with holding a short on this was the funding rate was absolutely hysterical. It was paying the longs because the sell side was so vicious. The bid was being propped up by the funding rate. The longs were just, if they just bought and held, they were making money on the funding rate alone. But the volatility makes it very, very difficult to do that. So it was not an easy trade to make money on. I'll give you that. But if done smartly, if done, with really good risk management, you can absolutely make money on these things. All right, so let's see what we're going to do here with Bitcoin. But obviously I have no more. I'm out of this completely. I have no more. I don't care what it does now. I made the trade that I was looking to make the money on, made it. It worked. It's fine. It's over. I'm done with it. All right, moving on. Oil is still testing 92.30. So what's likely going to happen here is if it breaks out, it'll be a strong move. It'll be a quick move to the upside, probably up into $94 or something like that. And then up in here, I won't love it for a short is good, but it won't be out of the woods for a short. Oh, where's my drawing tool? Like tomorrow or something. It just depends on what price does, and like, does it continue to trend above 94? At that point, then I would not be trying to put a short on oil. But, if it builds in resistance up here at 94, something like this, as long as it's right above the VWAP, that's fine. I can still look for shorts anticipating a break back under, a break back down below the VWAP. But if at that point it does build in a range like this and breaks to the upside, then you're no longer looking for shorts on it because your weekly order flow is bullish. So just because we're looking at it right now doesn't mean that it's a bad trade. It just might not be a good trade today. Excuse me. Tesla analysis, please. Long-term buy areas. Well, right now, I mean, you're at a potential long-term buy area. It just depends on what Tesla does from here. You're under November's low. November's low is the range low, right? You can literally delete every line on the chart, turn off the moving averages. You're under the 200 on the day. Let's see where, I didn't see where the 200 on the week is. The 200 on the week is all the way down at 291. So that's an area that long-term buyers will probably be interested in if Tesla continues to break down. But if I put my cursor here, you can see how you haven't been able to close any weekly candles under that until last week. So right now, Tesla's in the midst of forming a potential bear trap. But as long as it's trading under last week's high, 404.01, I would have more of a near-term bearish bias on it. You typically don't want to be buying an asset when it's in free fall, right? So long-term buying areas are going to be, you're going to need to wait until support is formed on a long-term basis, like a multi-week support, something like this. So if you get down in here and put in that range, then you can start talking about long-term buying areas. Until then, there aren't any, because this market is so levered up right now. A free fall could put it at any random price. Technical analysis does not work when the market is extremely volatile. So I don't care what indicators or what levels I try to give you, they just will not have any, they just won't have any, yeah, I mean, what you're asking is kind of almost impossible. You got to wait until price builds in support. Once that happens, then we'll be talking about long-term buys. Right now, the markets are still good for growth. So we're still in a growth phase. However, the numbers have been backing off. So we may be transitioning to a period of value and not growth. And if that's happening, then you don't want to be looking for any growth plays yet. You're still very early. But we just, it is what it is. You just have to ask yourself, what price, do you want to start buying? And then start buying it. Just don't apply any leverage to that position. But yeah, things could get really, really nasty here in the next couple of months. There is likely going to be some long-term damage done. I don't know if you have heard the talking heads on Fox Business or Fox News, but I'm sure you guys have heard the slogan, short-term pain for long-term gains, spoken to you by, I don't know, say 25 people. Yeah, that's basically the White House talking points that they want the news to focus on, but short-term pain. So they're telling you there may be some short-term pain. You don't really want to be a buyer when the White House is telling you we are anticipating volatility ahead. They could be wrong. Obviously, Tesla could find support here, but I wouldn't be looking to be a buyer right now. Unless you're buying like yields or cash, I wouldn't be. Yeah, Bitcoin's a little bit different. I'm buying Bitcoin, but you guys don't have to. Right? Bitcoin's a little bit different. I'm not anticipating that Bitcoin's going to decouple from risk or decouple from the dollar or anything like that. It's just Bitcoin is a very good asset to hold long term because up to this point, it has always made higher highs. Now, it may not ever again. We don't know. That's how probabilities work. But this chart long term, no matter where you've bought it in the past, if you held for longer than 4 years, you made money. So with that, knowing that, I'm okay with buying Bitcoin here. But I'm also okay losing every cent that I buy Bitcoin with, right? So it's all good. Yeah, if you want to do something like that, maybe you could mitigate a long-term Tesla. There are trades that you could put on, right? You could put on a spread or something. You could put on a long-term option position. You could buy leaps or something like that. So you could buy 100 shares and then you could mitigate the losses by buying puts or buying a put spread. There are ways that you could participate in the rally or in the market right now, and then perhaps enjoy a nice rally in the years to come. But I think you'd just be better off just waiting a little bit, let it build in a longer term support, and then we'll talk about buying it. I do own Tesla long term, but the prices at which I own it are so much lower. I've been doing this for a long time. I can remember when Tesla was trading at $200 before it broke out back in like 2017, 2018. Tesla built in a long-term resistance, and it was like heavily shorted back then because people thought that a $200 Tesla was way too expensive. They weren't pricing it as a tech play. They were pricing it as a car company. So, yeah. But there's been several splits since those days. I do believe Tesla does good. I mean, yeah, Tesla's a good own. Long term, but probably not at these prices. Not yet. The VIX, though, by the way, I haven't even looked at it. It's at 2687 today. Anything over 15 is elevated. When the VIX is elevated like this, you got to be very careful about being a buyer on growth assets. Risk markets also experienced a massive bounce from yesterday. Massive bounce. So we got the bell. The bell has rung 4 minutes ago. Sorry, I must not have my other platform pulled up. I do not. Massive bounce yesterday, but has been faded. So it'll be interesting to see what this does now. Does it fill the gap and roll over? Does it break back to the upside? Do we test 6690 again, as that is the top side of the expected weekly range for this week? Or do they fade it? With a VIX way up here like this, I would be leaning a little bit more heavily to the fade trade, unfortunately. So oil did break out above 92.29. It did close above 92.29. It is retesting that to see if it wants to hold as near-term support. So this would be about the time to start looking to put positions on. But just make sure you have a tight stop. I got filled on Tesla. So Tesla did bounce extremely high. Okay, so now we see. What do we get here? What do we get? Lots of stops getting triggered up here. It's funny, ain't it? Stops getting triggered right where we put on a sell order. Now, our stops may get triggered as well, but they're going to be much higher, right? So Tesla's going to have to trend from here to get us. whereas everybody else was just getting filled up here on buys. That's not how you want to do this. I'm going to do it how we do it. All right, so we'll see what happens here. Oh, I'm more interested in Tesla than oil at this point, but oil is falling. I need oil to pull back up into this level for me to get filled on the short. I can't chase the short. So basically, I don't want to get filled on market way down here just for oil to rally again and make fresh day highs, as then I'll eat a bigger stop, right? I want to wait for it to bounce back up into the level on, say, a 1 minute. Oh, sorry. I am not trying to make you dizzy. I apologize. So if it bounces back up into here, then I can take that fill. Go ahead and I'm setting a stop on Tesla. So if it starts to trend, I will get stopped out. If oil rolls over, Tesla could rally today. That's what I'm saying. So we'll see what happens here. Hopefully it takes a little bit of time. Hopefully it gives us a little bit of time. I did not anticipate that Tesla would go straight there in one candle, but it did. I generally like to give the market about 10 or 15 minutes to do its thing, and it caught me slipping. Because I would rather fill a sell later if it shows me that there's resistance here. I don't want to just take a fill like that. But I did, because I was talking about something else. Come on up here, oil. 92.29. $92.25 on weeks. And I have already forgotten that quick what I can even trade. $40, wasn't it? There's your retest there. This is what I'm talking about. If you get filled on the lows here and then it just rallies back to the high of day, you'd be suffering a much larger loss than allowing it to trade back to the level and then see if the market susses it out as resistance or support. Tesla is also sussing out this level as well. POC has migrated all the way up to here. That's normal. Bitcoin is rolling over, so yeah, we'll see what it does. I feel more confident for Bitcoin rolling over based on Fartcoin's price action yesterday, but we'll see. It's oil and Tesla that I am very not so confident with. If oil starts to make fresh day highs, I will be stopped out, and then I will leave it alone to see if it wants to put in an uptrending day. Good morning. Heat thoughts on euro dollar. Yeah, euro dollar, it's a difficult trade. Let me pull it up. So I have right here, right now, I have more of an upside bias on dollar. I have more of an upside bias on oil just because it's risky. So that would give me a downside bias. I posted this trade idea this morning on Euro. I was looking for it to reject this level here, which is last week's high. There's the daily 21 exponential moving average is also up here. So the structure is bearish on Euro. So I was looking for it to continue. Even though you spiked up, I think this is going to be a sellable opportunity. That's with the near-term trend. Like if you're looking at the last 3 weeks or for the month of March, Euro's been bearish. It's only spiking here because of near-term volatility and near-term news, if you will. Oil just made a fresh day high. Or not quite, but close enough to where I'm no longer looking for the short on oil just yet. But anyway, yeah. So it didn't give me an opportunity to short it. But I was looking for shorts if we retested here. That retest happened in the middle of the night while I was asleep. So basically I wanted to see the New York session this morning trade up to here again. Then I was going to put that trade on. I'm short Aussie dollar. So I do have a trade open for the dollar breakout. But the macro is more bearish for the dollar, but the dollar's structure is more bullish. It's anybody's guess as to what the euro is going to do. They're making a fresh day low right now on it, so I wouldn't be looking for a trade idea on it. If you thought that the dollar was going to roll over, then that would make you have a bullish bias on euro. You would be looking for longs here. All right. You'd be looking for long. So one spot 15754 would be the level that I'd be interested in buying if I had a buy side bias on it. But I don't have a buy side bias on it. But that's it. Those are the only two levels to watch for trade entries or our trade ideas today. So unfortunately today you could only be a buyer, and I never ever like that. I never want to be taking a trade just because it's the other side or it's the only setup available. But the dollar's macro is a little bit more bearish than bullish. So, I mean, you could make the argument that you could be a buyer on euro, especially if oil rolls over. Brent crude specifically, not the Texas intermediary crude or US oil. But if Brent crude rolls over, then I expect euro could ultimately be along. We'll see, right? Time will tell. Right now, West Texas is making fresh day highs, so it could roll over now. We'll see what happens with it. Oil is a very, very highly manipulated asset class. It is not an easy trade. Tesla building in very, very near-term resistance here. Lots of volume up here. So you're going to have breakout buyers look for longs up here. Yesterday it was very bullish. Very bullish. Huge gap up. Sideways today. You just liquidated right here. And you bounced. So the near term looks extremely bullish. And like I said, the retail moving average people would be looking for the short today. So you've spiked here. Tesla will if it makes a fresh daily low, I think your short is going to be good. If Tesla does not make a fresh daily low, like say it pulls, if you got short here and it pulls down midpoint-ish and builds in a support anywhere around that 200, I'd be kind of worried still. But if it were to break down and make a fresh day low, I'd be okay with it. That is if we don't eat a stop. We might eat a stop. If it gets up to like here, we're going to get stopped out. And it has enough momentum right here, right now to do that. All right, I'm going to put the short on oil. And that'll be the last attempt on oil. Wait a minute. Yeah, Bitcoin's trading down to intraday support. Your daily 21 exponential. So I don't really know what I want to do here yet. I don't want to miss the oil short. If Tesla continues to rally, it's going to feel like oil is a short. And oil is backing off of the high of day a little bit. It's just not much, right? It's barely backed off, but it is backing off. Oil should have spiked and gave you a little wiggle and a move higher here, or it feels like it would, at least if it was going to go up. We don't have to rush it. We can wait to see what it does. If it gets back under this, we can mitigate our risk here. And just give it a second. Give us a second. Tesla did stop me out. What do I do now? You do have a massive bullish engulfing on the 4-hour here. Doesn't really matter, as if it can't trend above this level, I do want to be short. But it stopped me out. So 384.16, 383.48 was my bad. That was a terrible fill. Should have been 384.16. That would have been a better fill. So we may miss it. I don't know. We'll see. The Bitcoin trade looks good. If it gets up around $400, I'll take profits on it. And that'll cover the losses I've sustained on Tesla and oil. But I've got to be careful because I can only do this one more time. Can only do this one more time. Even though I'm up on the week, I still only take 3 losses per day. It's the way to keep me from trading on tilt, which I can do really quickly. Look, Nvidia is doing the opposite of Tesla here. But Nvidia could be pulling into support, building support right now. Risk market's also rolling over. So it does feel like the Tesla trade would be a short. That's if you get downside continuation on all these things. I don't think I'm going to get filled on it. Yeah, I think it's going to run off and leave me. I could try to get filled at 4-hour res, but I don't love that idea. 4-hour res would be right here. I don't love that idea. Yeah, that right there got my stop. taking that fill on the spike is something that I usually don't do. I wish I would have paid attention. Would have been easier to get filled on that wick. But at least it's giving you that reaction now that we would have wanted to see. Bitcoin's starting to catch some steam here. Retesting the daily 21 exponential. Let me make sure that's in the right place real quick. $78.74. That's not the right place, bro. 7205. I looked at the wrong number. 7205. We want to look at yesterday's close. 7205. Where did I get 7804 from? What? Anyways, so this could be support on an intraday basis. Like if Nvidia can't trend under pre-market lows, it could ultimately rally today. And then oil would most likely roll over, right? I don't think we can get volume on this. Wait, there's volume there, so why wouldn't you give me volume here? Oh, it is. Yeah, I don't love this volume up here. Deltas are negative. Yeah, deltas look like they're looking for downside continuation on oil. But this 30-minute candle looks like it wants to go higher. Kind of a mixed bag here. Bitcoin, I know for sure I want to be short from the 3-day high. We put the trade on yesterday, so we're still holding it, and I know I want to be short. It's an easy trade. I don't know that Bitcoin's going to go lower today, but I do know that if it isn't trading above this price, I want to be short from this price. But all the other markets are a little bit not so easy. They are kind of, but that's a close above. So essentially, you need to take out the last 30-minute low. And you're still trading above the level that we're looking for a rejection from. So it doesn't feel like it's rejecting yet. The deltas say that it might. But I don't like where the pocket is. I do like where the pocket is on Tesla for Tesla to be a short. So yeah, we're just going to have to watch it, I guess, at resistance and see what it does. The trend is definitely down here. So generally, as a trend following trader, we would be looking for that to continue. March 20th, U.S. yields were illiquid briefly on 5 and 30-minute time frames. TradingView has since scrubbed the charts of this illiquidity. Good to know. I don't trade the bonds, but I guess that's important information to know. I do occasionally, very infrequently, like in the last 2 years, I might have put on 2 positions. Now, I'm not very much of a bond trader. I got my limit sell back up at 384 on Tesla. I just don't know that I'll want to take a fill if it gets back up there. Let's see what the deltas are saying. Yeah, they're very bullish. That makes sense. Nvidia is also back to positive on the day. So Nvidia has rejected the day lows. But March's open is going to be a big level. I don't know that it's going to be a big level on an intraday basis, but on a daily basis, it'll be a huge level to keep an eye on. As long as you're under that, you're bearish on the month. It really sucks that I got stopped out of the Nvidia trade on a wick. On a literal scam wick. That wick right there is what stopped out my trade. So annoying. I would still be holding that. If I was short, if I wasn't stopped, I'd still be holding it. I see no reason to close shorts on Nvidia from 187. Not yet. Not yet. That looks like a continuation candle to me, right? You put in a downside continuation move after making a fresh yearly high right there. Then you spend 3 weeks of chopping traders apart. Bam, bam, bam. And then you break down. Literal scam wick. Stopped out me and a lot of other people, and then it rolled over and gave you the downside continuation. The problem is this ascending trend line is here and everybody can see it, so people are buying it. So breaking down below that would be almost confirmation of the breakdown. Tesla did break down. You did break down. You did close the week under the breakdown point. So as long as you're trading under this, Tesla looks like it wants to go lower. Back above 403, and you can say this was a trap. I think the risks are still out there, but if they sit down and have actual talks, that's going to be an issue for short sellers. I generally like to be long these things, not short. So when I do get short, I do start to get bearish. You know, it's when there is a lot of headwinds, if you will. And there are. I mean, yields are up on highs, but I don't have accurate or up-to-date data on this platform. I do have it on Tasty and Charles Schwab, so I don't need up-to-date pricing on this. But it's up. It's definitely up. And that's a nasty looking rejection off the lows. Boom. That's got me a little bit more bearish on the near term. So Tesla is spiking here. Yeah, this looks like it wants to go higher. It should be getting killed right now. It shouldn't be going higher. I mean, if it was going to be a short. So I would say forget trying to short it. Feels like something else is going on here. The short on Bitcoin is still doing good, though. Yeah, Tesla's a very chaotic asset to trade sometimes. You liquidated yesterday's high already. The fact that you're coming right back up here again makes it a very, very risky short. Very risky. Nvidia looks like it is literally rejecting the lows. You could be setting new lows here as well, rejecting them. Might be the last opportunity to get short. I just don't know that that's what you should be doing. Because Euro is back up. Euro looks bullish here. It's starting to feel more like oil is getting, oil is getting rejected. Okie dokie. So, yeah, we probably missed the oil short. Yeah, I'm going to leave Tesla alone. It is too volatile to the upside. It shouldn't be doing that. If it was going to be a short, I feel like it should be heading lower. It could still end up heading lower later on today, but we've had a good 20 minutes here. And it's not leaving this area. I feel like if it was a short, it would be leaving this area and it would be leaving it with some steam. Right? So Bitcoin could be putting in that low. It is the 21 exponential. So it could be support. Very important place for it to break down and continue if it wants to head lower. Yeah. This feels like exhaustion. So this is what Tesla should be doing, in my opinion. Price is not predictable, right? Let me just get that out there and say that right off the bat. I have no idea what price will ever do. But when you do this for a long time, you start to feel things and things look a certain type of way. And then it's just experience, right? And generally speaking, especially in the world of stocks, like this feels like it wants to go up. That was a ginormous move on the open. You liquidated pre-market and prior day highs. Then you pulled back swiftly, which is the reaction I would typically want to see if I was looking for that short. And then it comes instantly right back. Kind of makes me scratch my head a little bit. So yeah. Looks like the oil short might have been the play and I missed it. And I don't want to chase it. And this would be a chase. I mean, hypothetically speaking, it has not made a lower 30-minute low yet. So maybe we'll get a shot at it, but it kind of feels like we've missed it. And the Euro long is working. So anybody that did attempt to take that, it is currently holding. Don't know that it will keep doing that. got to close a higher 30-minute candle before I would even think about it, but because the near term is still heavy down. Yeah, risk does not look bad in terms of buy the low. If that was the trade we would have taken, I would feel really good about this reaction. There's a fresh day high on Tesla, so that's twice you've made a fresh day high on Tesla. Altcoin still looks good for lower, but it could hold support here. It's been building this support in since yesterday. Long-term support. So similar to what I said earlier on oil with the box under the VWAP, you've got something similar here. You've got a monthly VWAP here. But you built in this sort of inverse head and shoulders. If it breaks back to the upside, then we would be anticipating a move up. Let me get you on the right monitor. And then if it breaks to the downside, then we would be anticipating that trending move away from the VWAP. But either way, it's not doing that. So this is that inverse head and shoulders look to it. Neckline is 1836. The bears definitely want to see it break down. I was unable to get short on this yesterday. We did get the one on Bitcoin, so 5 minutes left on the Euro 30-minute close. Wait, no, that's wrong. That's a 15-minute chart. But still, I mean, for it to go up, you need to be seeing higher closes. Yeah, Tesla's not feeling like a stop run and then puke. It could be, but I mean, at that point, you're basically just trying to talk yourself into a short. For it to be a valid short, I don't like what I'm seeing here, so I'm going to leave Tesla alone. Oil, on the other hand, feels a lot better for the short. I've just missed it, and I'm not going to chase it. This is what I wanted to see oil do. I invested too much time on the Tesla chart. Damn it. It is what it is. 'Tis what it is. Do you guys have any setups that you would like to see? U.S. government bonds being illiquid is a big no-no. Yeah, obviously. They need to be liquid. That means there's not enough buyers participating in the bonds. Not good. If the government can't sell debt, then the government's got massive issues. Oldest trick in the book, says Nick. What's that? The oldest trick in the book? Oh, liquidating swings? Yeah. Bitcoin could enter longs on a retest, 69,934. I don't love it though. I'm leaving it for today. Can you look at ONT USDT looking for a short? Yeah. Ontology. It is massively overbought on the 4-hour. 87.71. That was a 90 print though. Yeah, it's not overbought enough for me to start anticipating it to roll over. It's just now strong this week. So whatever news has sparked investors into this, it might not be done yet. I mean, that's a massive short squeeze. So I get it, right? It's up way too much, or at least subjectively what we would consider to be way too much. But I mean, it can continue to rock and roll. It is extremely overbought on the daily as well. So a short today may work out, but I would argue the people that made the real money were the people that bought it. I don't know. I would not have been a buyer this morning. This looks to me like just your random crypto pump. I think it's too early to look for the dump. It's very volatile. It's up 74%. Or it got up to 74% today. I think it's a little too early to look for the short. It may not be, but I don't see any level that I would be interested in shorting here. There are a bunch of weekly swing highs that you could mitigate risk from. I just don't feel like they're going to be very useful since it's so volatile right now. And yeah, I mean, it did this a couple weeks ago, right? So it makes sense that it's definitely going to pull sellers in. Let me look at it on the crypto exchange real quick just to kind of see what's going on. Bitcoin just dumped. Oil spiking? No, but crypto just dumped. Nvidia just made fresh day lows. So this sell might not be over yet. Might not be out of the woods on this just yet. This is a reaction I want to see. Nice little trappy trap move up above that high there, and then a very nice reaction. And like I said, Bitcoin just sunk. It's not a dump. Yeah. But it is a nice move. It's still very risky to short Tesla. But at least Nvidia has given you that secondary day low. Could this be a stop run? Obviously, it can always be a stop run, but the trend is down. So as long as the trend is down, like I said earlier, I would have no problems continuing to hold my short on Nvidia. Tesla looks a little bit different. Tesla looks like it wants to run. Euro looks good. Still to the upside. Nice big strong move on Euro. Nice close, I mean. Nice strong close here. So yeah, and I don't know what caused Bitcoin to run those lows. Definitely ran those lows on a strong move lower. And there's Sparkcoin breaking down, making a fresh low. So maybe crypto's trading under its own merit here and has nothing to do with what the dollar's doing. Yeah, the dollar just rolled over pretty heavily. So that shouldn't help Bitcoin go lower. Maybe people are just selling Bitcoin. Tesla's rallying again. This is some wonky price action. There's also a massive gap up here. So I'd say people are looking for that to fill. Puke it right before the gap fill. That would be funny. It doesn't feel weak at all. Yet. But it doesn't feel weak at all. News can, like, whatever your trade idea or your trade thesis is right now, since there's so much crazy stuff going on out there in the world, it can literally destroy your trade ideas and your trade thesis. Like yesterday morning, we had all kinds of things that we were looking at and potential setups that we were going to trade. And once that news came out, it literally screwed all of those positions, every one of them. Donald Trump was really good about doing stuff like that in his first term, so we kind of expected it this term as well. So it is what it is, right? There's really nothing you can do about it. But yeah, Euro is still pushing to the upside. I think I would be okay in leaving Tesla alone today, as it doesn't really feel weak. And there is a massive gap to fill overhead here. Kind of feels like that's the target, as price came straight up to it, set in that higher high. That was a liquidation of the prior day's high. Then had a nice rejection off of it, came right back, made a fresh higher high, and so far a higher low. So it kind of feels like the market is aiming at this gap. So if you still have a short side bias on Tesla, be very, very careful with this, because it could absolutely rally above 387 and then take off to 392. That would be a big move on Tesla, but it's only up 0.8% here. So what would it be up if it fills that gap? About 4%. That is completely possible for Tesla to do. And that's only going, that's not going by what it is actually up here. It's going by the close of yesterday. So going by yesterday's close, it's going to be less than a 4% move. It'll be a 3% move. That is completely possible. Tesla can move 5% in a day. Trust me. Yeah, it does feel like oil wants to leave this area. So I think Tesla's probably going to rally. With ONT, if I didn't make my point, I think you're early on that short. I do. You have plenty of room to continue to run here. I don't know what ONT is or what they do. I have no idea. Ontology, don't know. Doesn't matter either. Very bullish spike. It's up 74% today. So that will cause more buy side pressure. I'm pulling it up now to check the funding rate. ONT. Oh, that's not it. ONT USDT. It's up 45% on weeks. And the funding rate is paying buyers heavily. So what does that mean? I mean, I could buy this if it pulls back and finds support. That's what that means. Even though it's up 40 something percent, the 24-hour change is 45%. It ain't a sell. It'll cost you, I don't know. Okay, so it's 10:20. The 4-hour candle ends at noon. This is saying the funding rate ends in 37 minutes. So that's telling me that you're paying 0.86% every hour to hold a short. It is not a short. This is the exact opposite of a short. Like I said, if this pulls back to the midpoint and holds, I would be a buyer, not a seller. To extract the funding rate alone, not for a directional bias position. Just to extract the funding. Because the sellers are so aggressive on this that the funding rate is flipped to pay the bulls. It's trying to entice the bulls to come into this asset. And that will. It's already enticing me. I just can't buy it up here, but I could down here. And second, and to finalize this, if you short this with a big position, within 2 hours, if you don't get a flash crash, and I mean a flash crash, it will not have been worth it, because whatever profits you make every hour, they're going to be taking a large portion of that away from you. So over here, you will build up unrealized losses to the tune of hundreds of dollars, depending on your position size and leverage. So to the point where even if it goes in your direction, you will not make money. It is like so far away from being a short for me. But hopefully that helps, and hopefully you don't lose a bunch of money on this in the next couple days. Like I said, I think you're extremely early. I mean, we were looking at Siren, and that was after the weekly was up at 95, 96 on the RSI. So we weren't interested in shorting it until it was so massively overbought that put the odds on the sell side. And even then, we had to wait for the funding rate to chill out. So you just got to be cautious if you are looking for the short. Very, very difficult thing to short. Tesla looks like it's goading the sellers in here. And with Nvidia on the lows and the S&P, it's not on the lows anymore. But it's only 20 points off the lows. It still feels like it could be a valid short because of that. But if these things begin to rally, then I would definitely not want to be short Tesla. And Bitcoin did not liquidate that low right there, but it doesn't have to, right? Session volume profile did not migrate to the top side. I wanted to see that for the sell. It didn't really happen. So is yesterday going to be the weekly high? I think it's still too early to tell. This still looks like just nothing more than a pullback. I mean, down here is where people are going to be looking to be a buyer. Not so much me, just because, I mean, I have a long-term bullish bias on Bitcoin, but for the day trade, it would be, I would kind of want to see price just blast through that area. And I don't sense there's enough weakness in the overall market for something like that to happen. It could, because Farcoin absolutely did roll over yesterday. So there is bearish sentiment, at least out there, and at least on this. Yeah, Bonk does not even look like a sell. Pingu doesn't either. We were also looking at XMR over the weekend for the channel members live stream. We took a short on it, but we got stopped out of it. I wish I would have kept it on watch. I still liked it lower, but I said it would probably be the next day. And then Monday is when the short trade did work out. It still would have been a very difficult short to, it would have been similar to what Nvidia did, because it did go up there. It did tag that level to perfection, and it did back off with a nice move lower. So that would have made me extremely confident that I'm right on this trade. And then later on in the morning, it literally liquidated those early shorts and then rolled over. So obviously this would have been the best trade to take in hindsight. But if you did get in here and your risk was far enough, maybe you didn't get stopped out on that move. But I mean, it wasn't that big of a move above. So there is a possibility that we wouldn't have been stopped out, but it would have been a small possibility. Chances are that would have wicked us out, just because of the leverage and the position sizing and everything. The stops would have been very close to the entry. Yeah, I mean, other than that, it was a beautiful short. Now it's potentially breaking down out of this long-term consolidation. So if it continues, it could end up being a 2-3 day downside move. But that's your Sunday candle. So that is probably going to be your weekly high. But Bitcoin doesn't look like that at all. Bitcoin looks like it could still find support intraday here. So we're going to have to be, I can't take profits on Bitcoin. It needs to go a little bit lower, but hypothetically speaking, I should, because of what it's doing here and because of how Tesla looks. Tesla looks like it's going to 392 sometime today. Now, oil hasn't backed off of the level really far enough for me to be like, oh yeah, this is definitely going lower. It's still kind of skating around there. But it does look like exhaustion. Euro looks good for upside continuation. So I do believe oil does back away from this level a little bit. Downside profit target on oil would have to be like 89.80. So I mean, yeah. Kind of a mixed day. Euro is looking nice and strong still. That's a higher close on the 30-minute. It's higher than that close. Could still be a trap, but your low day buyers are so far being proved right. Not quite moved up high enough to start seeing significant profit targets yet. Usually around 25 pips, you'll see significant profits being pulled off. But I don't know that that's going to be enough to literally change what this thing looks like. It's been in sideways consolidation for multiple days here. This wick obviously doesn't look like it, but daily support is holding. It's the headlines, the news, and the volatile macro right now. Which means you're just gonna have to take profits a lot quicker if you do get in trades and they work out in your direction. Gold and silver, I don't know that they're going to be a good trade for the next couple of weeks, because that was a pretty sizable downside move. And it did hit my downside target on silver. and it did a lot better. My downside target was 70. It did ultimately go on to make a fresh new low. So I would anticipate buyers stepping up here, especially if the dollar rolls over. And the dollar does look like it is trying to do that. It does look like it is trying to roll over. So the Q4 2025 high sellers are right so far. You have not invalidated the bullish thesis just yet on the dollar, though. It looks invalidated, but it isn't. It's not invalidated, in my opinion, until you start to trend under last week's low. You start to trend under last week's low, then you can pretty much say, not last week, sorry, but this big bullish week here. Your bullish thesis is not invalidated yet. For 2 weeks we've been trading in this range. But it looks like there's some heavy sell side pressure on it. What does my Aussie dollar short look like? Aussie dollar short is still okay, but it's not really getting any, it's not really getting a trending move yet. And that's what I was looking at as my favorite for dollar breakout potential. I just felt like if the dollar does break out with gold and silver weakness, Aussie dollar would be a phenomenal short trade. And it was a phenomenal short trade. I didn't get it up there. I got it at daily res right here. It was a phenomenal short trade. I took profits on it yesterday when it broke below the range lows. So now I just have, you know, the small position left on it for any downside continuation. So I'm not going to close it, but it's struggling to break down out of this range. And that's with heavy weakness on dollar and silver. So I would have to argue that dollar weakness is keeping this thing propped up. The dollar long trade was also kind of contrarian, as most people were positioned for lower prices on the dollar. It could still play out. Like I said, I'm short from up here, so my short is no way being threatened here, not even a little bit. So I'm going to keep it open, and we'll see what happens. But until we get a valid dollar move, whether it's a breakout and a trending move or a breakdown with a big bearish trending move, the dollar is going to remain range bound in a 10-month range. Literally, I'm so sick of this range. I want it to go away. I want to get it to the upside or get it to the downside, whichever way it breaks. I don't care. If it broke out to the downside, I think that would be better for Bitcoin on a macro basis. But that's just my opinion. I don't know that it would be. I just feel like it would be. So either way, dollar weakness would be the better play for the Bitcoin long. It just hasn't invalidated that positioning yet. There you go. Bitcoin is not trending. So we're an hour into the day. You did get a lower move from 930, but it was just a lower low. You didn't get that close lower and continuation yet. So it doesn't look like it's going to be a downtrending day, or at least the first part of the session. Nvidia is also showing us that it's a very choppy day out there. Tesla's the only one that isn't, but it's also, it just, yeah, I mean, the short could work, but I'm no longer in it. I don't trust it. I don't trust it. That big gap up ahead. or overhead feels like it isn't weak enough to validate a short entry. And then here's oil retesting our level again. So if you do want to put a short on oil, right here's where you have to do it. I don't have any real strong footing here on oil or the dollar. I have no idea what these things are going to do at all. Maybe the best trade would be to like do the opposite of what I think is going to happen. And that trade won't work out for you very often, but it does occasionally. Oil is a short. Like if you look at it on the 4-hour chart, it is clearly a short. It is very easy to see it as a short here. You're consolidating after a large move lower. It's a bear flag, right? Breakdown, moving averages above price. You're coming back into the 50 as a retest. So just maybe it ain't here. Maybe it wants to go up a little higher and then find resistance. But if you get any bad news, it could break out to the upside again. So it's at a very good level to help mitigate risk. You take it with a small position and small leverage, you'll be fine. If you take it with your life savings, there's a chance you're going to lose your money. Just do it the smart way. And then for Bitcoin, in order for me to take profits, I need a lower move here. So, of course, I have to cancel the stop loss to put on a partial. And let's say 64%. All right. All right. So Bitcoin is situated. What? I haven't dropped any frames, so I'm not sure why I'm getting that alert. But anyways, it's all good. Can you look at... Oh, yeah, we looked at that. The breakdown was strong, so maybe my bias is short from higher. Maybe. OKLO. Nuclear sold off, but reactor deadlines in June may be a momentum play. OKLO. I've never heard of that. Let me pull it up. It has already got a lot of downside momentum. A momentum play which way? Back up? Is that what you're saying? I mean, it's trending. It's still trending down. It's down trending. So I would say similarly to Tesla, I don't necessarily want to be a buyer when it is literally making fresh lower lows and lower closes on a weekly basis. Because you're basically trying to essentially call a reversal for no reason other than you think it's the lows or there's some kind of macro news. And here's the thing though, what if you get the news you want, but the market doesn't treat it like that, right? You have the news and then you have the market's reaction to the news, two totally separate things. So, I mean, You're trading above last week's low, but if you take out last week's low, you're still trending. You're trending lower. It didn't hold support where we were looking for support a long time ago. This is obviously, I've been asked to look at this before. It did not hold the 50 EMA. It lost it, and then after it lost it this week, it lost it that week, but this week was the retest. This right here should have told you that it is not bullish. It retested the average. It really needed to hold. The 50 is widely known throughout all financial markets, especially on the weekly time frame, as a strong trending indicator. So whenever you retest that average from above to down and it holds like this, that is, the market is strong and it's trending up, right? So people will buy it as long as that's happening. When you lose it, it says the opposite. The market is weak and potentially getting ready to trend lower. So, it's going to be a streak of luck to pinpoint where it literally bottoms. But we can look for some higher time frame levels to help us with that. We can see that there is a quarterly swing low, Q2 of 2025's low right there. So maybe I would be like, well, if we lose last week's low, I'll wait for it to get down here and then see what happens down in here. Does it build in longer term support? If so, then I could pinpoint a bullish entry. But it's a lot more difficult to do that when the asset is trending lower and it has momentum to the downside. The bears have the momentum. They have price, they have the momentum, they have everything. This is a sell. But it could ultimately find support. I don't know. You said June? Okay. Yeah, June. So maybe when it gets closer to June, we'll take a look at it, if I can remember. Or you can just come back and let me know. And I'll take a look at it then and see where it is. It's going to be just straight luck if it holds here. There's an old weekly support level here, but that level is old. It is clearly what people are looking at here, because last week you did trade under it, closed above it. So it does look like people are trying to position themselves here, but it could go lower. Yeah, I'd be very cautious about getting long on this. This is a fresh breakdown. It's a fresh breakdown. So if you lose this low, you're going to be, easily you'll be able to get to $50. So this was support right here is what I'm talking about. It was a fresh breakdown as well. And then the sellers couldn't do anything with it for a bit. And then there's the breakdown. Same thing. It's probably getting to the point to where it's like exhaustion. You are maybe seeing seller exhaustion, because you don't have like extreme momentum to the downside here. Let's see what analysts have to say about this. So only 18 analysts gave ratings for this in the past 3 months. And of those 18 analysts, 9 of them say it's a strong buy. That's 50%. 50% of them say it's a strong buy. Then you have 3 at buy, you have 5 at hold, and then 1 is a strong seller. I don't think this is a strong sell, as you don't have any more downside momentum. It does look like it is starting to get exhausted on the lower move, but that's only what it looks like. It doesn't mean that that will continue to be the case. Mitigate your losses and take a shot at it. I like the fact that over half of the analysts are not only on the buy side, they say it's a strong buy. I like that. So that's good. Yeah, I mean, it's probably close to finding support, or it might be close to finding support. Take small bites of it. Small bites. A bite here, a bite there, and build a position over time. It's the best way to do that. I'm not sure what this level is. Oh. That's going to be Sunday's high. Yeah, people will buy that. I wouldn't, but people will. That is an inefficiency fill, essentially what you've got going on here. Yeah, Tesla is not rolling over. I would be I would be getting out of it at this point. Nvidia is starting to pop here. No momentum to the downside on Nvidia. Now, it could get some momentum if it makes a fresh daily low and starts to trend. If it keeps chopping on the lows like this, it looks like support is trying to hold. Yeah, it looks like support is trying to hold. That's a massive gap to here. So that would be gap fillage in the village. Because all of this was post-market. The gap started on the open right here. So that's a wide gap. You're just essentially filling the gap. And with no downside pressure on that gap fill. Yeah, I mean, Tesla looks like it's trying to break out. That could be bad news for Bitcoin shorts. I might not get filled on that take profit all the way down there. Yeah, risk market's still doing okay. Euro at least is acting a little bit like it's struggling on the highs a little bit. So I would love to see the Euro struggle. That would feel a lot better for downside plays today. But and then maybe S&P finally rolls over. You've been trading in this range on the S&P since 10 o'clock. You're trading inside this one little 5-minute candles range. Very tight range. Very tight. Yeah, Aussie dollar still feels good for downside continuation. So I only look at 4-hour charts when I'm not doing live streams, like when I'm just sitting in my office by myself, or if I'm sitting in the living room watching TV, then I have my laptop pulled up, keeping an eye on price. I only look at 4-hour charts. And if I'm looking at this, it still looks fine for downside continuation. This is a pullback, an intraday pullback. That's it. There's nothing more to it. This thing is trending lower, making lower closes each time. So it makes sense that this candle would pull back to previous 4-hour high. That's about where I'd want to see the sellers show back up again. But like I said, small position. It's a public account, so it only had $100 in it. I'm going to make it bigger. I'm not looking to grow it by 6 million% or anything. I'm just, by the end of the year, it'll be bigger. Just to prove it can be done. Real money, all that good stuff. But yeah, I'm going to keep that trade on. There's no point. No point. We're trending here. Boom, boom. Trending. Yep, as long as we're trading under last week's open, we're trending. It looks like it's a failure to trend lower, though. But let's just call it last week, so that way I know exactly what it is. Ooh, big bullish move on the euro. That's going to affect risk. All right, so DXY just had a spike. That means oil should have been shorted. Son of a biscuit eater. I did not put it on. I did not get it on. That's okay. That looks good. That's what I wanted to see had I been holding the short. Getting in a little bit early is still, it's a bad play, even if you know what I mean? Price is the arbiter. It decides whether or not your account grows or does not grow. Should have had my stop a little bit wider. But it gave me an opportunity here. I just was talking about OKLO or some other something or another. But that doesn't feel good for Bitcoin continuation lower. Could you buy this area if you were looking for longs on Bitcoin? You absolutely could. The trend is not with you. You are counter trend at this point, right? The yearly trend is down. The monthly trend is not down. The monthly trend looks okay. Let's look at March's data only real fast. That's March's data. It doesn't look bad for upside continuation. Well, here's what's going to happen on Bitcoin. Because the point of control for March's range is here in the middle of March's candle. If Bitcoin doesn't break down below this, it probably is going to break out. It probably is going to come back up here and test 2025's low. This is MicroStrategy's cost basis up here, but 2025's low is also right in this area. It's right there. So yeah, that's kind of concerning for sellers. It would feel a lot better if this was up here and price then traded away. Since it's right here, if price starts to trade away from it this way, it's probably going to be a pretty decent move. The last area for sellers is going to be this tiny volume node here, which funnily enough is where Bitcoin wicked up into yesterday. Your daily 21 is here. You closed above it yesterday. So, I mean, it isn't a guaranteed short by any stretch of the imagination. It's got some work to do. It feels kind of supporty to me. Look at Fartcoin coming off those lows. There must have been a news headline. Look at you being all sneaky, liquidating yesterday's low and then rallying. Yeah, Fartcoin looks like it's trying to build in support. It failed to break out yesterday, but same scenario. If you look at March's data only and nothing else, this looks good for upside continuation. It looks really good for upside continuation. So moving on today, later on, if that 4-hour support holds 4-hour closes, I will probably look for longs on Farcoin one more time. If it loses this area, it'd be easier for me to be a seller. But because it built in support down here, rallied hard, came back into this low volume area node, and is finding support. Yesterday was a wacky day, but it looks like you might have just set the weekly low on Farcoin. Very strong possibility of that. Especially now that you're getting that reaction. But I mean, it is very choppy. Bad news could make it go bye-bye again. You know what I mean? This market is going to be whipsawed around like crazy, driven by news headlines. Just make sure you guys are mitigating your risk, please. Bitcoin running more stops. I'd want it lower, says Nick. Good morning, says Non-Stoppity. Good morning. Thanks, I got stopped around 80, so I'm looking for those lower levels heading into June. Nice. That's all you can do. I don't know what the news is. I can look really quick. I usually don't pay attention to news headlines. I don't try to anticipate them or even try to anticipate what I think how the news may be taken by the market, but I'm not. Let's go over here to him and let's see what he said 9 minutes ago. Iranian Revolutionary Guard Navy. Any ship passing through the Strait of Hormuz requires full coordination with Iranian maritime sovereignty. And that was posted by Al Jazeera. So that means, I guess, they're going to let them go through as long as they coordinate with Iranian maritime sovereignty. Which means if you pay us in, English, you give us $2 million, we'll let you through. We forced the container ship Celine to turn back because it did not have a permit to pass through the Strait of Hormuz. So that's what they're doing. They're trying to use this as an opportunity to generate a revenue stream. I don't blame them. I probably would too. I guess God did truly save the king, says Financial Juice here. WH expected to announce that King Charles II will make a state visit next month, likely to include, I don't know what that is. I don't care about that stuff. And then 14 minutes ago, Microsoft CEO. So this is definitely, looks like this is the news here. Not the King stuff, but the Al Jazeera stuff. Right here. And then Gulf states weigh military options to counter Iran's escalation. So, like, if the Gulf states start attacking Iran, that might... I said Iran, I'm sorry, but it's funny. It's a meme. I get it, but I shouldn't say it. Because that's what Donald Trump calls Iran. It's Iran. Iran is the pronunciation. Iran. Got it. Gulf states weigh military options to counter Iran's escalation. Stuff like that could literally cause spikes in the opposite direction. It's just going to be a chaotic environment until we get through this garbage. I don't see any... I'm not going to close my short on Bitcoin to get long here. Obviously, I'm not going to do that, but I could offset the long side risk or, the downside exposure that I have only right now on Bitcoin with something else. Like a long on Farcoin or whatever. We'll see what happens with it. It makes sense that people would be buying here, specifically from the technicals. But I think if Bitcoin starts closing 30-minute candles under Sunday's high, then I would definitely want to continue to hold my shorts. And then if I do get to move lower and I am able to shed profits, I'm going to keep at least 1/10 of a Bitcoin on short for any downside moves that occur later on in the year. I don't think that this position is good enough to hold a long-term or sustain a long-term short, I think we would probably spike above this at some point. But as long as we're trading under the average cost basis of MicroStrategy, I know I do want to be holding some kind of short. I own puts on the IBIT stock, so that way if Bitcoin does roll over, my long-term portfolio is not affected by the downside move. And then eventually, when I believe it's been enough time and the low is in, then I will close that trade, and then any profits it generates I will then add to Bitcoin, the cold storage wallet. So in a sense, I just want to generate more Bitcoin if it does go lower. So I do want to have that short on as a protection, or as like a cautionary protection. It was in 2022 when I accumulated the majority of the Bitcoin that I own now. Because we were bearish in 2022 because the Fed was going to start hiking interest rates. And then again, we got bearish at the top. And then again in April of 2022, when we retested the early opening range, we put on another short. And that ended up being a magnificent trade. As long as we're trading under the yearly opening range, Bitcoin is threatening lower prices. But I have begun to start accumulating it because it's oversold on the weekly, and it got oversold on the weekly. And anytime that happens for Bitcoin, historically, that's been a good area to become a buyer. Good area to be a buyer, good area to be a buyer, so on and so forth. Good area to be a buyer. On a cost average, it's not a bad area to start looking to accumulate Bitcoin. And then you also have a lot of other indicators out there suggesting that your low could be in. However, there's too much risk out there to be able to confidently say that. There's just way too much risk still out there. And as long as you're under MicroStrategy's cost basis, that's another form of sell side pressure. So once Bitcoin gets above this, I think people will get a lot happier. And then you could see Bitcoin rally strongly. But that's all way out in time. That's not today. That's not here and now. Let's go look at long-term cost basis for the holder support. Hodler support. The long-term guys. Let's see what they're doing. They're starting to add more of the October buyers are now. I think the all-time high buyers are now considered long-term holders at this point. So it does make sense that this is starting to trend back to the upside. I mean, there's a lot more nuance to this indicator than just to be able to say, look, long-term hodlers are buying again, right? There's a little bit too much nuance to say that. But typically Bitcoin does do good when this indicator is trending to the upside. Well, right through here, Bitcoin put in a bear market and then even went lower. But as it started to grind its way higher, Bitcoin ultimately did build in a low and start to trend up. So it is going in the right direction. Let's say that. But then you're going to have moving averages. They're going to cause resistance. You're also going to have short-term hodlers, average price causing resistance. There's a lot of stuff above near-term price that could ultimately become resistance. Short-term holder realized price is 84K. That's almost a full 10K above MicroStrategy's cost basis. So we have plenty of levels of resistance to look to put on short side positions. Tesla is still not breaking out up into that gap. What is up? See, I wonder if this is about to do something similar to what the VIX did. The VIX literally went up to the gap and then rolled over. And you have a gap here as well. That the same thing happened yesterday. Look at this gap. Literally, price trades all the way down to the gap and then bounced all the way up to the gap and then failed. So are we going to see something similar to that here on Tesla? Traded all the way up to the gap and then fail? I don't know. I think it's too risky to take it on a short based solely on that. But it is definitely struggling here. I mean, 1, 2, 3 30-minute candles wicking up, wicking up, wicking up. And still you're not breaking to the upside just yet. And Nvidia isn't breaking down either. So there's that. And S&P did finally break out above its near-term range and heading higher. So yeah, I wouldn't be short Tesla. As long as the intraday looks poised for more upside pressure on Nvidia and S&Ps, I'd be very hesitant about taking shorts on Tesla. Oil is not breaking down either. It should have already been headed to profit targets. Chaos is afoot. Random market violence. Be careful. What's the news? Yeah, we read that. Is coin filling the gap or is it going to roll over? I feel strongly that coin will follow Bitcoin, but coin actually did get a nice rally when Bitcoin didn't. So maybe investors are now trading Coinbase solely on Coinbase. But Coinbase doesn't own a lot of Bitcoin. It's already filled the gap. So you probably said that earlier. Yeah, you filled the gap. The gap is always going to be from the close to the open of the next day. Even though during this day you traded up to there. The gap is from the close to the open. That's your gap. So your gap would essentially be here. You filled it. It's filled. Will it continue to roll over? I don't know. It's got a lot of bearish momentum here today. You're losing the 21 exponential. So typically when that happens for us, we have a bearish bias, not a bullish bias. The moving average structure here is all bearish. You've lost the 50 again. But here's the thing. This could be a bear trap. It could be. It could be. You went from massively oversold down here. You cycled up to the 50 where you put in a long-term consolidation. This breakdown could simply just be stopping out all the people that were buying these lows. So this could be a trap. However, it's got a lot of momentum. So I wouldn't be a buyer today. And to be honest with you, I wouldn't be a buyer anyway. It's got to be closing daily candles for me to be a buyer above the 21. If you can't even hold that, it's too much weakness. And the weekly structure is nasty bearish here. Nastily bearish, like disgustingly so. Yeah, this would be a fade, the rally. But, I mean, if risk winds down, if all the headwinds risk that is out there in the world, in the macro, then maybe some of these things do start to build in those longer term support zones. You got a trending candle to the upside. It'll be important to see how it closes. I would definitely want to see this monthly candle closing above the midpoint. If it could do that, then I could say, okay, maybe it's found some strength on the near term and we can look to, average into this. But right now, I think the pressure is still very, very weak. So just expect or anticipate lots of volatility on it. And as long as you're doing that and you're not taking too big of a position size, you'll be fine to average in to some of them. But Bitcoin's been chopping for about an hour now. Same scenario, just wicks. Nothing's really trending today. Very boring day. Oil's pulled back to the midpoint of the range and it's stopped going lower. I anticipate it will go lower over time, especially if they open the straits. They get the straits open, I think oil goes lower. But it might be a difficult trade to catch because of all the near-term noise. Very difficult to get positioned in. Oil is heavily manipulated as well. It's manipulated by several different things. Governments and supply and, it's OPEC. There's so much stuff that manipulates oil. Let me put ONT on watch. I need to keep an eye on ONT real quick. I want to keep this thing on watch. As long as it has a high, as long as it has a very high funding rate, I definitely want to be a buyer on this if it can hold support. It's still a little bit risky to try to buy that, but a midpoint check would be chef's kiss if it can hold that. Yeah, I think it's still a little bit too toppy to be a buyer all the way up here. But this is one I will be interested in buying. If it can build in a longer term support like this. Because the funding rate is paying the longs heavily right now. And this is overbought on the daily though, and overbought on the 4 hour, a lot. So today, buying it today might be early, might be tomorrow or the next day, might give you a better opportunity for a long, but it is massively overbought, so it could definitely fail. Make sure you're using, but it's an idea for sure. I love trading momentous things when they have momentum, and this clearly has momentum. I'm going to keep this on watch. Short squeeze could be massive on this thing. It could be huge. Coin and circle dumping on Clarity Act news. Oh, is that what's causing Bitcoin weakness today? Clarity Act news? Potentially. It is big news. I didn't hear or see the Clarity Act news, but I was not looking for it. And when was that? $700 billion asset manager Bernstein says Bitcoin is likely bottomed and could reach 150K this year. It's possible. Anything is possible. CFTC launches an innovation task force. An hour ago, MasterCard, Wordplay, Western Union are early participants in exploring stablecoin settlement. Other signs, a Big Four auditor, first full SEC enforcement chief quit after clash over Trump-linked cases. Yeah, I mean, I don't see anything. Generally, Coin Bureau will post big news, especially crypto-related news. I don't like it when they post political news, but I mean, political news can be looked at as crypto news. I hate when they post straight up propaganda. I'm not seeing it, the news on the Clarity Act, but maybe I'm not looking back far enough. I don't know. They do new. It's not breaking down, I'll give you that. Tesla is starting to show signs of failure or fatigue. Okay, get on with it. It sounds like this song has been ringing in my ears for the last 20 minutes. Move on. Okay. What else? Anybody got a setup? An actual setup? Something that is absolutely setting up right now? Let me hear it. Let me see it. Two hours, 41 minutes left on this. This looks like a breakout. But I like it lower. I just think it's a big area of potential support here, so it could take a few days to suss that out. Come on up there. Come on up there, oil. Let me pull up oil again. One more shot on it. Looks completely different than the crypto exchange. That's because they have different times. This is tracking, most likely this is tracking crude oil futures. The CFDs, I can't trade CFDs here in America. So the 4-hour closes on this chart are going to look completely different than crypto exchange 4-hour closes. 4-hour closes on the crypto exchange is 12, 4 and 8, 12, 4 and 8, 12, 4 and 8, 12, 4 and 8. So we got a 4-hour close coming up in crypto in 40 minutes. Bonk. I got bonk right here, my friend. Yeah, I mean, it's not selling off hard. Liquidity is dried up in bonk. It was already a very thinly traded asset to begin with. But when you start seeing 4-hour candles gapping, very, very thin liquidity. It is one that, you know, typically does have thin liquidity that I will trade because I've never experienced any trouble trading it. And it is something that I do watch a lot. It is a meme token. It has no actual use case. Like no working whatever. It's just essentially speculation vehicle similar to Fartcoin and Pingu. It's very choppy, very sideways here. It clearly it's got pressure to the downside based solely on March's VWAP. But what I'm seeing here is a whole lot of nothing. Like this is a very sideways candle. Multiple weeks trading inside each other. Piano keys. So whenever you have piano keys on the chart, you got to trade it as such. So if you are trading it, you got to make sure that when you get a move in your direction, you're quick to take profits because you could be spiked out the next day or whatever. Because it is just pinging back and forth like a pinball machine, bouncing off of areas of support, of resistance. There's a clearly last week's open is right up there. That's going to be a level of interest. I don't know that people sell it there, but it's definitely an area of operation. If I was looking to put on trades on Bonk, they would be down trades, unfortunately. It's at support, but there's enough to gain in that. So essentially, I can look for shorts at the weekly open, and I can target 3-day support, 569. That's a 6% move. So as long as it's trading under, and I would tighten it up and get it off the weekly open, and right here is where I'd put that risk. I can't short it where it is now. I guess I could if it failed at 4-hour res, but I would know that this level up here is probably the level that price wants to go back to. So allow it to liquidate this swing high here. And then if it could tag this and reject it, I would be short. Here's the thing. Very thin liquidity. So if you get any more news from the Clarity Act, that's good. I would anticipate Bonk blasting right through that level with no problems whatsoever. But it is, for me, a short, simply because even though it's sideways for the last 3 weeks, order flow on the monthly range is more bearish than bullish based on the volume-weighted average price. It's not trending lower. That's the problem. It's not in a trending market environment. So the setup for me, the preferred setup would be, if it fails 610, I would be putting shorts on right there. If it's above 610, I would be leaving it alone. I can't buy it at 610. I could, however, buy it at weekly support, 569. I wouldn't love to buy it down here because I would be concerned that a breakdown is coming. You can see the range here. So I'd be concerned for the breakdown, but if it did get down here, I would be able to buy it. If the VWAP was underpriced, I would definitely be a buyer at 569, just based on the structure of the market. I don't think the structure of the market says that you can be a buyer on it, especially because it doesn't have a use case. But I mean, that's the bottom of the range. So if the bottom of the range holds a support, I would want to be long from there. But for for continuation style trades, I would be looking for downside continuation. So that's kind of what I'd be looking at. The scalp would be a short there and a take profit here. That's the scalp. That's a 3% move. So if you get filled on a big enough position size, you could target right there. Take profits on the first and then leave the rest on for the continuation trade. But it's all going to hedge basically on what Bitcoin does. Bitcoin is the boat, or it's the tide in the ocean, right? If Bitcoin's up, most crypto's up. Bitcoin down, crypto down. So Bitcoin is going to be the leader in a lot of these. Sometimes, occasionally, we have seen Fartcoin lead Bitcoin, but it doesn't happen often. It's not all the time. And now you can see Bitcoin's actually finding a bit of support here. Yeah, I missed the oil short. It is what it is. I'm not going to chase it. I'll wait for it to give me a entry tomorrow or the next day. I'm not going to chase it today. Yeah, I have a feeling the shorts are not going to they're not going to be able to take profits today on Bitcoin because Euro's going up. Risk markets are trending slightly up here. Dollar's rolling over slightly. It's not a massive move lower, but it is struggling and rolling over. This is putting upside pressure on Bitcoin. So a long might not make money either, but you're not seeing a trending move. We should already be out of the Bitcoin short. If we were right on direction, this thing should have triggered a take profit. Retesting the daily 21, I would not be a seller right there, but it will be important to see how Bitcoin closes today. Does it close above or below the daily 21? Yesterday it was a close above, so it makes sense that people would be looking for longs this morning on Bitcoin. Very choppy area. How dare you say that Farcoin has no use case? It helps you fart. That's a very important use case. It's a meme token. It does have a use case for me. I use it to generate liquidity, generate money, cash flow. I love Farcoin. I have no issues with Farcoin. There a couple million contracts every 24 hours is traded on that thing. So as long as that's a use case, right? I just mean it don't have any like fundamental pumpamentals. It's not like this grand technology that's going to do anything, right? Whereas Bitcoin is, and Ethereum, they have use cases. That's all I was saying. But I think you know that. You're just trolling me. Thank you. Love to be trolled. Euro at 15934 right now. The markets are slow today. Even Tesla, with that strong bounce pre-market or at the bell, still like struggling to break out. Tesla did pretty much the same thing yesterday. I had a strong run early in the morning and then it just kind of faded into obscurity. It looks like pretty much what we're going to see today, or at least up until this point. After noon, you might get that run up and into that gap fill. Yeah, just not. Silver's choppy, gold is choppy, but probably going to have more upside pressure based on if the dollar rolls over. So I think silver is still extremely expensive at $70, but that's a subjective take. So I probably could look for long positions on gold and silver if the dollar does roll over. I mean, gold is just up 0.2% today. Silver's up almost 2%. So if silver keeps moving at least a couple percent per day, I'm still going to be very interested in trading it. I don't think you're going to make fresh all-time highs or anything this year on gold or silver. I think you're probably going to spend the rest of the year just chopping. I think you got your blow off top there on silver. That looks like a blow off top. We've been heavily shorting it for a couple weeks now because it looks like a blow off top, and we got the move that we were looking for. So feels, looks, and smells just like a blow off, and it's even acting like one. If it is a duck, if it quacks like a duck, it is a duck. Sort of thing. So I'm not looking for fresh all-time highs, but I could definitely look for long positions and take profits if the dollar rolls back over. but it still does feel extremely expensive at $70 an ounce. Very expensive, especially for what silver is. Like, it is a commodity, so looks like the trend is over. Let me see what copper is doing. Because copper was actually put on. I'm going to keep ONT on the list. I think ONT is going to need some time. I don't want to trade it if it's just going to be a pump and dump. But as long as the funding rate is paying the longs, I want to keep it on watch. Because if it starts to build in near-term support, I am going to look for a long on it. The problem is it's so overbought on the intraday charts that it's probably going to need to pull back to like 60 or somewhere in that area before buyers feel confident enough to come into it. But I definitely want to keep it on watch. Bitcoin rolling back over here. Nvidia is not. S&P is not. So this is a Bitcoin move only. Altcoin did not make a higher 15-minute close. That's funny. Need to do something over here. Damn it. See, this is why I'm not a first-person shooter gamer. I cannot move a mouse very good. All right, here we go. So, HG. Oh, it's going to be one exclamation point for copper futures. They put copper futures on the Weeks platform. Looks like a pretty decent trend. Going to be interesting to see if copper can hold support at around 527 moving forward. Maybe not today, obviously, but later on down the road, maybe next week. If it can hold long-term support here, I might be a buyer on copper. But clearly on the 4-hour, this thing is bearish. But it's been bearish for a minute, so it's probably just popping here. I assume they will fade that rally. Maybe up to here, 564. There's really nothing else to look for. Yeah, I like it. So near-term resistance would be 5.63, and then near-term or longer-term support 527. Those are going to be areas to look for trades on copper. And then I think that's it in terms of futures. I mean, they added the platinum, palladium. I don't know about aluminum, but I know they added that. They haven't added any of this stuff. I assume if in the future, all of this stuff will be added. All of it. Everything gets tokenized. You'll be able to trade cocoa, wheat, Where is cocoa? I don't even see it. Wheat, corn, soybean, soybean meal, soybean oil, rough rice, spring wheat, canola. Well, at least it's gone back to normal. Was absolutely crazy, bro. It went all the way up to $14,000 a bushel. Damn. Cocoa was some high dollar stuff there not too long ago. Coffee. What's coffee doing? I know it's up because I'm paying an assload of money at Publix every time I buy a 10. And yes, it's up. Maybe it's starting to come up a little bit. It's not like a blow off or anything. Looks longer term like it's in a range. There's a breakdown and close below, so I would want to see at least the aggressive sellers show back up here. 315. I can't trade this. I mean, I could on my other accounts, but I've never traded coffee ever. I don't even see coffee here. Yeah. All right, I guess moving on today, I'm going to be stuck on the Bitcoin trade as it's acting a little bit volatile here on the near term. But it does look like support is trying to hold at Sunday's high. That's where everybody's going to be paying attention to going on today. And then obviously the daily close needs to be above the 21 exponential for the bulls to have any chance at all of it getting back up to 74. But I think if it gets above 71,384, you're going to see Bitcoin reprice pretty aggressively up to last week's open at a bare minimum. So I would not be trying to sell Bitcoin anymore this week if it's trading above this level right here. I think this was the best place to look for the short given the near-term price action, and so far it was the best place to look for the short. It just hasn't broken down yet. It might later on today, but it hasn't yet. We're not really seeing any massive weakness in oil, therefore dollar is choppy this morning. But it looks a little bit heavy. It looks like price action is heavy here to me. So dollar on the near term, there really isn't any near term levels. That's clearly not a level. It used to be, it is no longer. I mean, it's threatening a breakdown as long as it's trading under the weekly open. It looks a little heavy, but support is holding down here. And for right now, you don't have bearish invalidation on the dollar yet, which is what I said a little bit earlier in the stream. For bearish invalidation, you're going to have to take out that weekly low at least break down below this upper or lower trend line, the one that's moving higher, as that's going to be your March uptrend, right? It started in February, and so far, March, you're higher. So if you break this trend line, then a lot of people are going to look at that as bearish or bullish invalidation, and then they'll start shorting the dollar again. But longer term, you're closing days above the 21, you're closing weeks above the 21. The bulls definitely have the market still. So I think that's what a lot of things are waiting on. They're waiting on to see what does the dollar do. If the dollar breaks out here, it could sustain, that breakout could sustain a multi-month rally, and you could see a lot of risk off come into play later on. So dollar needs to be strong watch. Even if you're not placing trades based on what the dollar's doing, you at least need to know what's what. As long as it chops back and forth, things are acting a little bit choppy here. Nvidia has finally made a fresh day high. So I assume Tesla will too. I would be careful if you're looking for Tesla shorts today. You're definitely not getting the move you wanted to see. When the shorts are in control of the market, this is what happens right here. So not this. It doesn't mean a short won't work in the future. It just means, at least right now, order flow is not bearish. Today and yesterday anyways. And because of that, I would be a little bit more hesitant about looking for intraday shorts on Tesla. I think if you are short Bitcoin, just hold it. I'm not seeing any reason to close that trade yet. It is still a short. It still looks good for downside continuation. You haven't made a higher hourly swing high yet. The 4-hour looks fine. Looks like you're going to close below support. However, there's 16 minutes left on this candle. It could rally up there and close above. That would not look good for shorts. It would not look good for shorts at all. So Bitcoin could ultimately rally today. Later on, it rallied yesterday. It could rally today. The bears do not have control of this. If the bears were in control of Bitcoin, I think we would have absolutely got our targets hit. My target's a little bit further than it should have been. It should have been at the Sunday high if I would have done it right, but I didn't do it right. So now I got to suffer in this chop. But yeah, that was definitely a 2.4% move. You could have definitely taken profits there. If you were correctly positioned, you would have been able to. So yeah, we'll see what that does. Nvidia, yeah, I'm not interested in Nvidia down here. And the S&P 500 I'm not interested in it either down here for a short. I was interested in shorts, and I will be interested in shorts as long as it stays under 67.60. Above 67.60, then something else is going on. But you do have a breakdown here. You did break down below support on a weekly closing basis last week, so I definitely want to see last week's high respected for downside continuation. I guess if you're super risky, you could put risk on there, 66.21, or at least be watching it to see if support shows up there. I mean, resistance. I don't love it, but if it holds, right? It's just yesterday's headline news is what caused the downtrend to be stopped dead in its tracks. So apparently, we're going to get more of the same. This is what we had last week on the S&P. It was not an easy trade, unless, like, very difficult for trend continuation. You've been getting a lot of two-sided trade, a lot of two-sided action. So the trend is still, the very near term is still down. So that's what I'd be looking for. Last week's high, though. That would be the best place for short side entries for downside continuation, and only if it fails there. Other than that, I don't really have a whole lot. Oh yeah, and Ontology, I'm going to be keeping an eye on Ontology. It is massively overbought here on the very near term. Today, it is spiking hard. It's up 60%. It's got quite a bit of volatility right now, but the funding rate is paying the longs so good, and every hour. As long as the funding rate is paying bulls almost 1%, that funding rate has chilled out quite a bit, actually. So Yeah, that could suggest that bulls are getting excited for that funding rate. So I don't really love the idea of buying it down here, but this thing looks completely different. This is on Binance, and then when we look at it on weeks, it looks completely different. So I don't love that. I do like this, though. That is a strong funding rate. So if this funding rate stays high like this, I am definitely interested in buying support. But I'm not just going to jump on any random wick. It's got to be clear and obvious support. If it is, I'll try to get long to attempt to generate some revenue via funding fees. As far as shorts go, I don't like it because it's so expensive to hold a short. You need a pump and then you need a dump in order to make money trying to short this. That's the only way you make money, is if when you short it, it dumps. If you have to hold it for more than an hour, the funding rate that you're going to pay is going to eat into your profits. But sometimes it just takes experience to learn that the hard way. So be careful if you're trying to short it. You could be a day or two early. And then that's about it. Other than that, I don't really have any things that I'm watching. I'm holding shorts in Aussie dollar. Aussie dollar looks good for downside continuation, but I think you're going to need to see the dollar break out to sustain it. I don't think it will be sustained if it doesn't. It is in a big range up here. It's a multi-month range. So you got to get under last month's low before you can establish that you do have a near-term trend. Right now, it could still get bought up, especially if the dollar does get sold off. This could literally be an opportunity to be a long, but I'm not looking for the longs here. I'm holding a short. I just might be early. I don't know. The dollar really looked like it was going to break out this week. It did. It felt really good to hold dollar longs into this week, coming into the week. And literally Donald Trump shot that trade right in the foot. And he has a really bad habit of doing that for me. So I do not like Donald Trump as a trader. He is definitely one of the worst presidents to ever be a trader in. At least for technical analysis, right? His tweets are world renowned for screwing directionally biased trades up. And he is still doing that. So with him around, it makes it any trade idea almost impossible. But yeah, it is in a range, and it is, at the bottom of that range. So buyers could show up on this. If they do, then I would be more looking for longs on gold and silver, right? Gold and silver have experience to blow off top, but I think you're going to see a lot of near-term chop. I don't think you're going to get like a huge downtrending move, huger than you've already gotten, I should say, because that was a massive move lower. It's a 38% move off the highs. That's all any short could ever hope to achieve. 47, my bad. Yeah, come on. That is a monstrosity of a move. So I think that is done. You're not going to see any big moves like that anymore, but there still could be near-term opportunities. And that's it. That's what we're going to do. So you guys have a fantastic rest of your day. Make sure you guys trade safe out there. Make sure you guys trade safe, smart, and as always, happy trading.